All right, y'all, I'm back. Now, today I want to talk about Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 13. As you know, last video we made, we was at the gym, we was working out, and God had put it on my heart. I was listening to podcasts, hearing God's word from other people that inspire me. And God put a message on my heart to give, which was the one I put out about 7 days ago. But today, ironically, I haven't been to the gym in actually, I believe today is Saturday, so I haven't been to the gym since that day, which is kind of ironic, right? I made that video about spiritual bondage, and I just had to endure an attack, right? I just had to endure. It wasn't really too much suffering, but it was something that was detrimental to my life, right? So what happened was that night, I don't know if you guys know, but I drive Uber and Lyft. So I was driving. I believe I was doing Lyft that night. And I was getting a pretty good demand. Now I thought nothing of it. A few people in the back were getting those alerts, beep, 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 tornado alert. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled to see, is the rain heavy or is the rain soft? And a lot of places that I was at, the rain wasn't as heavy as, I thought a tornado would be. So I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. My car's driving fine, everything's fine. Right? But as the day went on, because I left my crib at like 9:30 p.m. Right? And the actual bad thing that happened didn't happen till like 1:30 a.m. So I don't know if it was necessarily an attack, but it was something that had to sit me down for a while, right? It was a humbling that had to take place. Now, I had already decided earlier that day when I was talking about spiritual bondage, I was preaching to you guys through the video, but I was also preaching to my own spirit. I was being edified by that. And I had decided to go on a 21 days of prayer and fasting. Now, of course, we know corporate fasting is taking place in many global churches, right? That was what brought the idea to me, because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take part in this today, or in this year, I'm gonna take part in this 21 days of prayer and fast. I had already decided that, but it would have been a lot harder to pursue that if I had the freedom to get in my car. Not like that's a thought that's in your head, but it's not something you think anything of. You just, we got self-control. We'll get through it. But that night, about 1:30, it was like about 12:50, about 12:55, 12:56. We dropped off our last person, and it was so much water on these roads. I mean, it was crazy. But I knew I had a pastor in the back, and I'm just trying my best to get them home, right? So I'm trying to find the least wet road. I'm following the GPS, but I'm, swinging side to side to find, okay, that's a lot of water. This is a little bit of water I'm going through, and my car is perfectly fine till I drop this lady off at her apartments. And as I'm pulling up, I'm looking to the side how people park on the side of the curb. And there's cars, they're not flooded, but the water is up to their wheel. And I'm like, now back here, there ain't much water, but right here, there's so much water. Now she lived on the elevated slope, like the apartments was built on the elevated slab of concrete. So I did that, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should stop here, right? But my fear told me, well, if you stop here, they might tow your car. You never know if they're gonna have security driving through here. What if you fall asleep and then they tow your car? Or they come up and, the cops come up or anything, right? Because, they have those covered parking spots you're not supposed to park in. So I let that control me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go home, try to get home. I put the GPS on. I turned it on to my house. Now, this is a warning, right? All three of those routes, there were 3 different routes I could take to get to the house. All 3 of them said weather alert. I'm like, well, the whole day I've been fine, so what's weather alert to me? I'm gonna go ahead and do it. This thing tell me to turn down, I believe it was called, I can't remember what the road was called, but I turned down this road, and it was supposed to lead me to the freeway, and I was gonna be able to take the freeway all the way down to where I live. Man, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, as soon as I got on this road, I knew I had messed up. You know how you watch those memes, and it's like, at this moment, he knew he effed up, right? So what had happened is, as soon as I turned down this road, there was no going back. I'm knowing the freeway is down here. If I go another street down and turn, that road is flooded. If I go a street back and turn, that road is flooded. So all these roads can lead me to the same destination, but they're all flooded. So I'm like, I'm just gonna try it. Now, there's not much water, I mind you. On this particular place, the water is not covering my wheel, but it's pretty high. But I've been driving through water a little bit, a good amount that day. So somehow my car just decided to go on the fritz. It wasn't flooded. I'm like, after what happened, I'm looking up things on the internet like, okay, Is this car supposed to give up in the rain? Like, that makes no sense. Because I'm seeing other cars drive past me and splashing water everywhere. I'm like, why is my car doing this? It told me, stop the car and do not try to drive. Now I'm like, bro, we in the middle of water. We're in the middle of darn near a little 5-foot pool. No, not 5, like 7 to 8 inch pool. But that's a lot of water to a car. I don't have a truck, I have a car. And it's not 4-wheel drive, it's 2-wheel drive. So I'm like, man, this is some mess, man. So I'm trying to turn around. I'm like, okay, it say turn around and park. Or it say put the car in park and do not try to drive. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna park it. Maybe to drive, I'll be good. I'm turning around, and at the street I'm turning, because it's the same street, but it's a median in the middle. I'm turning around to get on this street, and it's flooded more on that side. I'm like, come, and the car just started going off. Like, my hybrid battery just stopped working. Like, it just turned off. And now, because you know, when you have a hybrid car, it draws from the hybrid battery and the small 12-volt battery. So when the hybrid battery goes out, the car can still run a little bit on the small 12-volt battery, but it's not gonna have enough power to power the whole car. That's why they got that big hybrid battery in there, right? So I'm seeing that my thing is not charging. The alert is on there, but I'm trying to find a way to park, find a place to park that's safe, because there's some people that stopped on the road. Another one, and there's people who stopped on the road with hazard lights, but I'm thinking I can get through this. I'm good. Like I did when I went outside, not ignoring the tornado warning. Went out there, I'm like, I'm good. And then, what ended up happening is I couldn't go anywhere. I stopped in the middle of water. The water didn't really get too high, but my car just wouldn't turn back on, right? So that whole night, I had to call the tow truck, which it was a whole ordeal because they was talking about my policy number was wrong, and there was all kind of mess going on. So the tow truck, I couldn't even put the query, the search in for 30, 40 minutes. I'm stressing, like, man, I'm praying to God. I'm like, God, man, I got faith, man. I'm here, man. I'm just doing that. And this whole time, my spirit is telling me, in a manner of speaking, it's gonna be all right. He didn't say those exact words, but in a manner of speaking, it's gonna be all right. But I'm like, how is it all right? I gotta sit out here. It's 1:30 in the morning. It's gonna be cold. I don't got no jacket. I'm just driving. I thought I was gonna get home and drive, just drive, get it home, keep the heat on to be good. I'm like, man, I'm finna freeze out here. It'll be really cold. I don't want to go to sleep in this car, right? I ended up having to call my insurance company. It was so many cars that stopped in that area. It took them 7 hours to come get me. Fam, the tow truck didn't even show up to 6 in the morning. We didn't get home till 7 in the morning. My mom was supposed to be going to work at 4. She had to come pick me. We was sitting outside for the tow truck to come. This thing said 30 minutes to an hour. It turned from 30 minutes to an hour to about 7 hours. Like, we watching the thing, keep refreshing it, and the time going up. He finally showed up at like 7 in the morning. When I get home, the sun is risen. Now, I ain't got no sleep, and I'm knowing, this is partially my fault, but also just like, I'm praying to God that things will be all right, because I'm like, if this car is flooded, I can't really necessarily afford to fix it right now. Them hybrid batteries, they cost thousands of dollars. I don't want to pay for that. That costs more than the car itself. So I'm like, oh, this is really bad. This is as bad as it can get. So I prayed to God that things will work out. And the reason why I'm giving this testimony right now is things did work out. What ended up happening is we dropped it off at the dealership. They looked through it or whatever. They checked it for water damage. They said there was no water damage, which it definitely was. Because when I put the car in my driveway, before I took it to the dealership, we got it towed to the driveway at our house. When I towed it there, when it got off the ramp of the flatbed, water came out of the exhaust. The water came out of the exhaust, and the car wouldn't turn on at all. So the battery was completely dead. The guy pulled out a jump box, which you can't jump a hybrid battery. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So he hooked it up to the 12-volt battery, because the 12-volt battery helps the hybrid battery to start, right? It just helps it start, but it doesn't run the car. The hybrid battery runs the car and charges the battery at the same time. So he jumps the car and it turns on. And I'm like, why is it turning on now? That's weird. Both of those batteries was just dead, but that happened. By the time we got it to the dealership, I guess by the time they looked at it 3-4 days later, there was no water damage. Everything was dried up. There was no evidence of water in the exhaust, in the oil pan, in the brakes, nowhere. So they were telling me, I owe them $330 just to run a diagnostic. And I'm like, well, if you did no repairs, why should I owe you money? But I just prayed about that. I didn't necessarily, I asked State Farm, why are they trying to charge me for this? And State Farm was trying to, they CYA, cover your own butt. So what they're trying to do is say, well, because there was no actual claim for flood damage, we're not going to pay this. You're going to have to pay it. So I'm like, oh, hold on, bro. For $330 for nothing, you have to do repairs? So I went up there and it's like, you could pick up the car. So, but mind you, I didn't know there was any price tag due because on the phone, he didn't tell me I need to pay any money. So when I got to the dealership, he told me $330. And I'm like, bro, like, you just said there's nothing wrong. So I explained to him further what was, I'm like, are you sure this car can run? Are you sure? Like, if I'm willing to pay for it, but are you sure it's not going to give me any more trouble? He said, well, hold up, explain to me what happened. And if I told him exactly what happened in my own words, he said, let me go and get some further testing. Because apparently whatever the insurance company told him was some mess. The insurance adjuster came out there and was like, there's no water damage. According to what the dealership told me, he didn't look through the car. He didn't really take his time to look through the car. He just looked at it and said, you know, that car's good. It can run. He just decided there wasn't going to be no claim because they always trying to, you know, they'll take your money, but they're not worried about actually servicing you unless you force them to, unless you actually get on that case. So that happened. And I went up there and I'm like, bro, just check it again. He said, let me keep it overnight and we'll check it again. He called me in the morning, like 12 in the morning. You know what this guy told me? And this is the miracle. This is the whole build up, this whole 10, 11 minutes to this story. It's the whole build up. What happened is he called me and he said, I couldn't find any water damage. I checked it. I checked the fuel filter, everything. So he checked even more things than he checked the previous time. So if it cost me $330 to check it roughly, how much would it cost to check even deeper? Probably $300 more, right? Because of the labor and the shop time and all that. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to pay this $1,000 deductible, but it's not deductible. It's just going to be going straight to the dealership, and that's going to be wasted money. So I'm like, man, I don't really want to do that. And I'm praying to God that that's not going to happen. But mind you, before all this happened, that Saturday night, he told me it's going to be all right. In a manner of speaking, he kept telling me it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. So back of my mind, I'm knowing that, but I'm still like, well, show me your faith, show me your faithfulness, show me how it's going to be all right, show me what's going to happen. What happened is, the guy at the dealership, he didn't find any water damage. He took care of 3 different safety recalls because my car is a 2015 edition. So they had many recalls that, you know, you go to the dealership and they take care of it for free. So he took care of all those 3 recalls for free. He didn't charge me nothing for all the time he was sitting in the, so he told me $330 the day before to look through the car. Now he looked through it twice, even deeper the second time. He took apart more things to look through it the second time than expected the second time. And he did a full multi-point inspection. He gave me all that for free. You know, the dealership don't make money off selling cars. The dealership make most of their money off you going to the maintenance shop. That's why the oil change costs a lot. The tires cost a lot. They charge you for the parts and they charge you for labor. A lot of places like Walmart, where we go get our oil changes from, they make $10, $20 for labor. The shop gonna charge you a certain amount, $100 for labor per hour, $150 for labor per hour. So I got all that for free. Got my car back, it's running perfectly. Now, when the car got stopped up, I had like half a tank of gas, or it was half a tank on the gas radar. It said I had 255 miles of range. Why, when I got the car back, it was in the exact same spot, and it said it had 455 miles of range. Who knows? So, long story short, I got my car back. It's in better working condition than it was. All the recalls were taken care of, and now my car is running even better than it was. And I got all that for free from a dealership. Not from somebody who knows my family who give me a deal, from a dealership, which that never happens. So that's showing you the power of God. If you in some kind of hard situation that you think God can't save you from, or God can't pull you out of, now this ain't as hard as it make it seem, but this is the way I make my money. So I couldn't make money for a week. I'm stuck here, you know, listening to what everybody else telling me. I can't see the car for myself because I don't have no way of getting around. So I'm just taking everybody's word for it. Until the miracle come, he said, you don't owe me any money. So yesterday was my first day back. I got my car back and it's perfect. It's even better than it was when I first got it, right? So that's letting you know what God can do when you trust God, when you believe what God has told you, right? Despite whatever fleshly things rise up to tell you anything different.